Ladies and gentlemen, go for our wild, wild ride with the Honey Badgers. But beware, the sweetest kittens have the sharpest claws. For your own safety, strap yourself in and hold onto something as we enter the Pussycat Cast. Taboo topics.
Wait a second. Men are human too.
Marginalized men. Uncomfortable truths.
You suck!
The Pussycat aren't afraid of heavy lifting.
All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this week's Pussycat Cast. That's number 6, by the way. Glitter is on the wrong side of history. This week's verbal Valkyries are our polecat punster turned part-time pussycat pugilist Hannah, and our very special guest, the principled, passionate, plucky, and pleasant Prim Reaper, as well as Candace of Father's Rights Alberta and Monique of Cafe, who helped organize the Calgary screening of The Red Pill this past Tuesday. And also a very special thanks to the CIA. Thank you for tuning in. The pickle in this clam bake, of course, is myself, the Supreme Doge in charge. A word to the wise before we begin our show. As a result of recent events surrounding YouTube shenanigans, we will soon be moving our content away from YouTube and onto Minds.com. All of our shows will also be available, as they always have been, on Libsyn as well as iTunes. Links to both of those places are in the low bar. Before we get into the shows, I would like to talk a bit with Monique as well as Candace about the Calgary screening of The Red Pill. While The Red Pill has been available for digital rental and downloads for a little while now, it's still very important to have live screenings in major theaters, if at all possible, to try to get as many eyes on the film as possible. So, I guess my first question, I will give this one to Candace first. Candace, tell me how the screening of The Red Pill well, first of all, for people who don't know, tell me a little bit about the Palace Theater, which I believe is the place where it was screening at, and then tell me a bit about how it went.
The Palace Theater, they host a lot of independent films, so anything goes pretty much. They've hosted a lot of controversial things like climate change films, vaccine films, all that. And so we thought that would be the perfect venue to host it at.
Is it a pretty, like a busy theater, kind of like big, or is it one of those kind of small art housey theaters?
Small art. It's pretty low grade. It's not classy or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And they have everything there. They even have their own little skit shows that they do, and so it's for the independent art community.
I see. And how well was it received? Well, what kind of a crowd did you guys have? That kind of thing.
We had a multi-mix. We had a lot of everybody from MRAs. We had feminists. We had people who I don't even think know what they are. Just regular people who don't identify as anything. They showed up, and we brought everybody in. We got 2 of the protesters to come in.
Okay. Oh, so you got protesters to watch too, huh? Did you?
Yeah, there's 8 or 10.
Yeah, I remember when Karen, we had an after show that was for the patrons only, where Karen walked to the theater and with her camera showed us the protesters. And there were she counted them, and I think she counted 8 people or something like that. So, and do you know?
Not many.
Yeah, and was there a good turnout for the movie?
For the movie, yes, the lineup was all the way down.
Really?
It was pretty big, yeah.
Oh, wow, that's great.
We had a lot of people that didn't have tickets that showed up, and we put them through. We were just counting seats, trying to fill the seats, get everybody in there.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and well, that's great. I want to ask a question. I'm gonna come back to you because I want to ask you some other stuff, but I'm gonna ask a question of Monique now. Monique, can you tell me? Did you sit in the theater with the people and? Can you get an idea of what their impression was?
Well, they were laughing at all the jokes, so I thought it was really good. You could hear the big people when you see that response of people actually engaging with the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I have watched it maybe 2 or 3 times. So every time I watch it, I always get something new out of it. So I was like pretty much focused on like what I was thinking about too. So, but yeah, no, everybody it seemed really positive, and I was really happy that it was so big, like that we put that like there's so many people in there because it wasn't and there's so many people now on the cafe site like asking when we're going to have more screenings. So
Oh,
yeah,
that's good. That's good.
yeah, I'm just thinking a lot about because everyone wants to come in to see the movie now. Like I think that that's what was important. So yeah.
Yeah. Did you, by any chance, get a chance to either of you guys? Did you guys get a chance to talk to the feminists who saw the film to see what their thoughts were, like protesters rather? I don't know if they were feminists. I just know they were protesters. So.
We had one. He came out because he identifies as a feminist, and at first he's like, "Well, this film's really bland," and I'm like, "You're only like 20 minutes into it. You need to go watch the rest." And after a bit, he did go back in to watch it, and then when he came out, he looked like he had been crying, and he wouldn't talk to any of us. He just quickly disappeared. We had one journalist who writes for a very high feminist run media. She watched it. She was crying when she came out, and we're trying to push her to write about it, but her editors won't let her.
Really? Did she talk to you
Yeah,
guys?
so
Did she talk to either of you guys about why what it was that struck her, or what her impression was?
she was more or less trying to get out of there because I think she had one of those like mind struck, like I believe all these lies and now it's not what I was told. Like she was shaking in the lineup, and they get told that anything that MRAs are in, they're going to get beat and raped and all this stuff, so they don't really know what they're walking into. And so I think for them, the biggest thing was, oh, well, we're coming in here and we're not going to get hit. And it's not all this lies. Like they've been told so much. They don't know what to think.
When you say that she was shaking, do you mean like she was afraid? Like this
Oh,
before the
yeah.
movie, right? So she was scared of the people that were there.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Because we had like people identifying with signs as MRAs and everything. And they're made to believe like terror stories. And I don't know. I don't see how you could ever be hurt at any event that MRAs are at. That's probably your safest place to be.
Right. And then after the film, the same journalist was crying, or she
Yeah.
looked as though she had been.
Yeah, she had like the tear streaks on her face still, so
Yeah. And
we
she
had
like
a lot of
got.
men leaving the theater to because they had been crying, so tried to control themselves. And
Was this before the film had actually ended that she left? Did she leave early?
oh no, she stayed for the whole thing. She was tweeting about her like Karen's Q&A, so she was keeping a live Twitter
Oh, okay.
stream going the whole time.
Okay. Wow, that is really interesting. Can you? Would it be imprudent to ask what feminist rag or paper or whatever she wrote for? Do you happen to know
um
that?
I don't know, I don't want to get her in trouble.
Okay, okay. Maybe we'll just leave it be. I was just
I'll
curious.
send you the link and then you can go from there.
Okay, okay. Thank you. Okay, I want to go back to Monique with another question. Monique, you told me before a friend of yours was going to be recording the Q&A and maybe other things. Did they get some pretty decent footage of anything?
No, he contacted Cafe and he said that it was too dark. I'm pretty sure like that we'll see things come up with like smartphones later. I'm hoping that happens. Like sometimes that's happened at some of my like favorite Milo events, for example. So, but I'll see if I can test for him to take a look at it myself and see if I can fix it up or something. There was someone, yeah, that fixed it,
Okay.
but we're kind of struggling with that right now.
All right. And I have another question for you too. How did the Q&A go?
Oh, well, Karen's great. Like, whenever she does it, it's always perfect, I think. She's really funny and people laugh at her, and she's really good at disarming people that kind of come in with like an idea. Um,
Did
yeah.
what did she get challenged on anything? Like were there people that were like, that were
Well,
bringing.
people always ask loaded questions. They're pretty much asking things that have an assumption. Like they think that you're gonna say that that first wave feminism, like, you know what I mean, like those kind of questions, but she, like, her whole MO is always have to go back to the very beginning and start from like point A, right? So she's really good at that and being succinct and
Yeah.
kind of, but she's also, yeah, like, I don't know how she does it. But yeah, Cafe actually sponsored her, and it was like worth like every penny always. Like, she is, yeah, but she's just awesome. Like, there's nothing, always, everything she does, I think I'm probably one of her biggest fans. It's kind of silly, but yeah, I love her. Yeah.
Oh no, we all love her.
Yeah, she's great.
Candace, did you see the Q&A, and what were your thoughts
Oh, yeah.
on it?
Yeah, I went in for the Q&A, and I was really impressed with how she was willing, like, you could tell she knew who were the feminists, and she gave them the opportunity to ask her questions so she could challenge them back, but with facts and get it out there. Because I think some of them, after watching the film, they still don't want to believe what they saw because they're so ingrained into what they believe. But she challenged them, and I think that was the best thing to see. And I'd like to actually see her up challenging like a whole pile of feminists. I think that would be a show we'd all want to go watch.
What about, I heard, okay, so we know that there are about 8 protesters, and I think one of them, which had a sign which I named the stream after, I think it was like, how is glitter on the wrong side of history? That's a real sign, guys. That was a real sign that one of the protesters had.
It was.
But there was also a guy named Mitchell. That's all I know is his first name. And he was out front, and he had 2 donation boxes, I believe.
Yeah.
And one of them was a donation for feminism, I guess, or towards feminists, and the other one was a donation towards MRAs. And he was basically taking money from whoever wanted to give it. And at the time that we spoke to him, he had this hat. That's what I know him for. He was like the hat of like a bear or a wolf or something. At the time that he showed us what was in the boxes, the MRA box had like orders of magnitude more money in it than the feminist one. In Canadian money, which is your plastic monopoly money, which I can't really understand, but there was way more of it in the MRA box than there was in the feminist box. Do you guys know about him, or did you guys talk to him and see how much he had at the end or anything like that?
He had $18 for the feminist box, and I can't remember what was for the MRA box, but it was enough that he could go feed a few homeless people for at least a day. So, yeah.
It was like, Monique says it was like $90.
Yeah,
So
I know the one that was for the MRAs was much. It was pretty good.
Okay. All right, so I don't know. That sounds like it was a good time. Do you guys actually? You know what? Is there anything else you guys wanted to say about the showing that I didn't ask you about? And if not, then does Hannah or Prim want to add anything or have any questions for these ladies?
I have like one thing I wanted to add is that I'm really impressed with how everybody from all sides were willing to come in and watch it after everything they've been told. And It's great because more people are going to start seeing the issues that are going on.
Yeah.
That's the thing that really needs to happen, is that we need to get to the point where, like, we look at feminist issues, we look at what feminists say, and we analyze it, based on logic and reason and facts and actual history and so on. We need them to be able to do the same thing with us. Mm-hmm. Look at what we have to present instead of knee-jerk reacting. It's bad because MRAs said it. It's bad because you're saying something in favor of men. It's bad because it's not about women. It would be great if we could get more of what it sounds like happened at this event. If we could get that to happen in more places, and it might be that people hosting these showings is what it's going to take.
Yeah. No, I agree.
I think it's really heartening that there were people who you said were against it, that were going in to watch it, and they had that kind of reaction. It really makes me wonder just how many people there are that would call themselves feminists, but if they saw this movie, they would at least be willing to see that men's rights activists or people like that have relevant things to say. I think it's really important.
Yeah.
But that's not going to happen with so many people saying, "Oh, this movie is promoting rape."
And
Yeah.
domestic violence on women. That's the other one they keep pushing to. And you're going to get beat up if you go to watch it.
Oh, you're gonna get beat up if you go to watch it. Yeah, because you know those damned MRAs, they beat us up all the time.
Oh, I know.
Well, how else are we going
half
to keep you guys
half
in
the men's
line?
rights movement's women.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, how else are we going to supposed to keep you guys in line? That's why I host the shows.
There we go.
It satisfies my urge to beat women.
There we go.
Ryan 27.
We all
thought
just want to be
I thought that was
dominated.
I thought that was why you played with video games with women, because when you win and you beat the girl, that satisfies the urge to beat women.
I also like to control them. That's why I picked female characters. Well, anyway, so I want to also ask two more things, and this is about what you guys did outside of the hosting of the Red Pill, which I want to give you guys a lot of credit. I think that you have accomplished a great deal with that, and I'm really glad that there were people that have opposing views, or at least were like fence sitters or whatever, that decided to give this film a chance. I think that's great, and I hope this feminist writer who is now dealing with the sort of the outcome of taking the red pill is what it seems to be. It seems like the movie red pilled the shit out of her, and she almost couldn't handle it because her expectation was nothing like what actually turned out. I hope that she also spreads these ideas, at least even if she only gives it some credence, it's a massive step forward. It's sort of like what's happening right now. If you guys look at popular feminist discourse online in like large channels, there was a time, and it wasn't very long ago, where the issues facing men were completely ignored by feminists and social justice warriors and hardcore leftists, or whatever you want to call it, right? Now, even the ones that still hate MRAs acknowledge that men have problems. Even if they hate MRAs, even if they slander them or whatever, but they at least begin with, yes, there are genuine issues facing men like this, and this. That is huge, in my opinion. And you know what? Sometimes you just can't change people's minds, but if you get them talking about it, the right people will get a wind of it, right? So.
Yeah, well, I think that's the greatest thing about this film is it's proving to everybody everything we're saying. And they just have to sit down and watch it. And it's there.
Yeah, exactly. So, real quick, was somebody about to say something? Somebody? No? Okay.
Well, I was just gonna say that I think that it shouldn't have taken this if feminists were really claiming that feminism was for everybody, for these guys to be, seeing the issues that men have, but we all know that that's not really true anyway. Right. So
of course. Yeah, so I mean, that's another thing it's exposing is this, there's a lot of people who are like, well, feminism was about equality. Why aren't we learning about these things until now, considering how long this has been going on?
That's an issue that I think a lot of third wave feminists are going to face, because there is a stark divide between the previous waves and their knowledge of the goals of feminism, and the current waves and their knowledge of the goals of feminism. And what they've basically done, and I mean, I've been insulting about it. I've used the term useful idiot because the term useful idiot was created to describe exactly this behavior. You become the cheerleader for team feminism, and you think feminism is great because of what you are told feminism is. You never dig any deeper than what you are told feminism is, and you never learn that its roots are in a form of collectivism that is meant to break down the family and that is meant to exploit gynocentrism for political power for feminist groups and to raise money and create lucrative professions for feminist leadership. So you end up getting used to further those goals without meaning to. And I think nobody wants to find out they've been doing that. Like just the little bit of, I guess it's been pretty big wake-up calls that I've had with being a member of a political party in the United States. And over the last, 15 years, having to wake up to the fact that it's not anything that I grew up believing that it was. That's a shitty thing to wake up to. It's like, it's not sun on your face in the morning. It's like having a deluge of cold water thrown at you. And I'm sure they're going through something even more like that, because theirs is based around a victim ideology that they have to cling to, that they have to feel like the underdog and everything is against them and they're overcoming something, and then they find out it's nothing like that. So I mean, I can see why it's difficult for them. And it's true that it shouldn't have taken something like this, but in a situation like that, it does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I hope that someone taped the Q&A, because apparently, according to somebody in the chat named A Mayo Super Woe or whatever, he said that there was some commie guy that was at the Q&A that was pretty funny. So I would love to see that, just to see how funny it
Oh,
was.
that
So-
was the Make America Great Again guy.
Oh, there was a guy with a MAGA hat
Yeah.
there?
Yeah, they had that he was getting brought up and everything, but he was pretty like right in everybody's face, and he was good at what he was doing because he was putting everyone on the spot, and those kind of people are good for this crowd.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, sometimes you got to make people uncomfortable, right?
I mean, did he show up in a
Well,
MAGA hat
exactly.
and then spout? It's like they're calling him a commie in the chat. Was he?
No, I think he was talking about communism as being the root of the problem in the chat.
Okay.
I think
okay.
that was why.
Well, he
Go ahead.
yeah, he did get Karen to answer him, so it was good.
Okay.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. I'd like to see that question and answer. So I don't want to know what Karen said. I don't want to know what the question was. We'll see if somebody got it on tape somewhere. Otherwise, you guys got an exclusive experience that no one else can ever have. All right. So, real quick, Candace, you work with, or you worked with Father's Rights of Alberta?
Yes, I did. I had built it years ago. I had to step down last night because with this screening, it was put out there that a woman was running the page, and a lot of our fathers have PTSD, I keep calling it, from being destroyed by feminists and women. So they have a lot of fears when it comes to a woman, and they got kind of scared to come to the page. We have an anonymous place that we will give them like support through. So they got a little bit scared and turned off. So I stepped down, so more men, because I have a pile of men in there working. And hoping it brings them back, because the ultimate goal of the page was to give a place for men to be able to speak without being told, you're a horrible person because you're masculine, or you're a horrible person because you have those feelings and thoughts. And with the woman being behind there, now they're a bit scared, and I understand that, and I get where they're coming from.
Yeah. Oh, that's a shame. Well, I don't know. I can't really say anything to the PTSD thing, but it's unfortunate. So what are you
It's real.
Yeah. Well, what are you gonna do now?
What am I going to do now? I'm going to continue to lobby politicians, and I'm going to continue to get in the faces of judges and lawyers. Keep pushing like I have been. Just, I don't know, find
Yeah.
other ways to help people.
Yeah, good.
Try to make something happen.
Oh yeah, good on you. Good on you. That's awesome. Okay, so and Monique, I wanted to ask you about Cafe. So tell me a little bit about what you do in Cafe of Calgary.
Well, we're not as developed as Father's Rights is, but yeah, some of what she was saying sounded really familiar because I just started volunteering at the meetups, and then we have Dr. Dan who does the men's peer circle. So yeah, I get that too, but like we try to make the meetups more about the community, like just more education and awareness, because obviously you can see with the film that that's really lacking, and a lot of people are just kind of like hungry for something. So yeah, so we've been doing that for the last year, but it's been pretty productive. And yeah, we're getting more people in the men's circle. So, and there's no women there. So that's how so they do that. And then I just do the meetups. And no, I really enjoy talking about the issues and trying to raise awareness and just with the groups that I see every week.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Mitchell from there too. He's really funny.
Okay.
He's so funny. Yeah.
Well, thanks for that.
Yeah. No
Okay.
problem.
Well, stick around, guys, if you want. If you need to go, you can. I'm going to go on to the actual stories of the show. You guys could stay. Feel free to comment on things if you have any opinions. This is for both you and Candace, Monique, so feel free to do so. And I'm going to go into the stories now. We only have a couple. This should be fun, though. So, getting into the first story. You may remember we talked a bit about an event involving a student at Drake University that was, I believe he was raped and then accused of, well, let's read the story, okay? Drake expels male student despite female admitting that she forced him into a sex act. We talked about this on a previous show. I believe it was a pollcast. Des Moines, Iowa. A former Drake University Board of Trustee of 23 years, Tom Rossley believes Drake University blatantly violated Title IX rules. Quote, Drake became my family, so when Drake did this to my son and me, it literally ripped my family away from me. End quote. In October of 2015, a female student claimed she was sexually assaulted by Rossley's son after a night of drinking. There was zero physical evidence that there was ever an assault on this woman. All they had was her word. A school disciplinary board supported the woman's claims and expelled him in April of 2016, despite Jane Doe declining a forensic sexual claim the day after the encounter to prove an assault occurred. I'm calling her Jane Doe because, you know, when you are making an accusation of rape and you claim to be a rape victim, then your identity is protected, and when you're accused, your identity is not. Speaking of his son, Rossley said, quote, he will never be able to go to another college because no college will take a kid who has that mark on his record. Rossley says his son suffers from anxiety and ADHD, takes medication, and receives help in the classroom for his disability. He claims he was not given disability accommodations during the 9-hour-long disciplinary hearing. He had to be his own attorney for 9 hours without any accommodations for his language-based learning disabilities. That's like throwing a kid with no arms into a swimming pool, said Rossley. The two lawsuits filed separately by Rossley and his son say the female admitted on the record to attempting oral sex without his consent. Rossley said, she goes on to say, if you can believe this, that I was just giving him what I thought he wanted. So that's what she said with regards to her forcing herself on him. According to the lawsuit, she stopped performing oral sex because Rossley's son could not maintain an erection. Drake decided to not investigate the claims of Rossley's son being assaulted by the female. These lawsuits are about Drake breaking the law time and time again, and unfortunately my son got expelled for it. After his son's expulsion from Drake University, just 1 month before graduation, Rossley wanted answers from administration officials. The Board of Trustees told him the matter was over. If you want to stay a trustee, you need to keep your mouth shut and disassociate yourself from your son's problem, Rossley said he was told. Rossley was voted off the Board of Trustees 3 months later in July. He said, Drake just believed everything she said, and Drake was trying to railroad my son. The Jane Doe described is not named as a defendant in either lawsuit. The family is seeking damages against Drake University, including President Earl Martin and the Board of Trustees. Drake University issued the following statement on the case. Quote, Drake University takes seriously its commitment to provide a safe and productive educational environment for all of its students. This case is no exception. After an initial review of the complaint filed by former trustee Tom Rossley Sr., the university disagrees with the plaintiff's depictions of the alleged actions of the parties involved. There are clear differences of opinion about how this situation evolved, and we look forward to presenting a vigorous defense in court. In recognition of the university's obligations under federal law and out of respect for the privacy of those individuals involved, no further comment will be offered. And that's the end of the article.
Just imagine for a minute if a guy did what this article says, the Jane Doe alleged self-professed victim in this article, in this situation, is claiming. Well, Your Honor, I'm the victim because I raped her because I thought she wanted it. And even though she couldn't perform, since I feel bad about it later, you see, she raped me, not the other way around. She's the rapist. No, I don't think that would play very well. I think feminists would be coming out of the woodwork to protest against that university. I think they'd be having to hire security to deal with the outrage and the people that would show up to express their outrage. The idea that a person can admittedly perform a sex act on someone who was too drunk to respond and then turn around and claim to be a rape victim and say that it was because they thought the other person wanted it. I mean, you can't possibly get any further into abandoning your own agency, into pretending that your own actions and your own decisions don't mean anything, except to maybe do it to a person in a coma.
It really pisses me off that we still have to keep framing this in terms of, oh, what if the sexes were reversed? Why can't it just be, this person is performing a sex act on somebody that doesn't want it? It shouldn't matter what sex these people are. God damn it, that makes me so mad.
Yeah, and then the thing is, we do have to frame it, what if the sexes were reversed, for people to understand. You know, you explore that. Why would that reaction happen if the sexes were reversed? Okay, and that reaction is what we would see. You could be pretty sure that if somebody, even if it was, you know, not like oral sex, when it's performed on a woman, it's not as obviously penetrative, but you're still forcing someone to penetrate your mouth, and somebody might belittle that. Somebody might turn around and say, well, it's no big deal, you know, and feminists would get pissed off about that too. Mm-hmm. This is the whole thing. The question becomes, why would that reaction happen? And why isn't it happening now? Why are feminists, why are people in general not horrifically outraged at this university? Why are people not canceling their applications to this university if they are male? What guy feels safe going to school where if somebody sexually assaults him, whether or not he has any recourse against his assailant depends on the sex of his assailant, and whether or not his assailant decides to exploit the system against him? What guy wants to go to a university where he is at risk for being victimized twice? Mm-hmm. First by being raped, then by being dragged through the mud for it.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, I mean, there's also the question of how many feminists didn't give a damn about men's issues until something bad happened to their own son or something like that, right?
Right. Like, a lot of people don't notice stuff like this until it hits. And it's, you know, I know we get really hatey about that, but at the same time, I think that's true of a lot of things. People don't realize the big risk diabetes is until somebody in their household is a sufferer. People don't realize the big risk of riding in the back of a pickup truck without something to secure you to the truck until, you know, somebody they know falls out and dies. It is just all kinds of things people are unaware of until it hits them. So, I mean, I can give them that they don't understand if they're immersed in their bullshit, that they don't understand what's going on until they see it happen, like, right in front of their face to somebody they know. But to not have any compassion for men, to be able to look at something like this, and say, no, it's not that big of a deal when the news comes out, and to not feel the same compulsion to go protest or to write to the university or to write a news story about it, that how terrible it is, or any of the millions of other little things feminists do that they would call aggression if we did it. They're not doing any of them. I haven't seen a single response out there from anyone saying, this goes against everything feminism stands for. We should not be supporting this. We should be protesting against this. Nothing.
Yeah.
There's nothing.
Let me ask you a question for either of you guys that might know. What is the relationship between this case and Title IX for anyone who's watching that may not know? As it opens with Tom Rossley, who's the guy on the board of trustees, who says that the Drake University blatantly violated Title IX rules. Do you guys...
Well, it's kind of difficult to be sure, but so Title IX Title IX has turned into a train wreck. It was initially about equal access to course loads, basically to courses of study, and so I'm not sure what aspect of the train wreck that it's turned into he's referring to, whether it's the fact that I think the Dear Colleague letter that's been the Campus Save Act, if I remember right, turned most of the Dear Colleague letter into law, and it applied it to Title IX. And I'd have to actually have this stuff in front of me to be sure. Mm-hmm. But if that's the case, they're violating. It's supposed to not be specific to gender. It's not supposed to be just about women or just about guys. It's supposed to work the same for both sexes. And so if there's indication that this woman acted against this guy's will, or rather without this guy's consent, because that's the standard they're using, then they would be violating Title IX by not investigating that and not acting on that.
Right. I think that's what he's thinking.
He may be conflating Title IX with the Americans with Disabilities Act, because Title IX is about gender, but the Americans with Disabilities Act says that if a place is going to list itself as being handicap accessible, they're not allowed to have limitations that keep a handicapped individual from being able to use the facilities. Mm-hmm. And that his handicap being, his speech issues and so on, his communication issues, he should have had assistance that he didn't have. And to my understanding, that might be where the violation is in terms of the his handicap was not accommodated. Mm-hmm. And in this situation. But I'm not sure if Title IX has been expanded to include handicaps or not. I haven't, because my study of it has been more in terms of how it was expanded to include sports.
Yeah. Another thing for those of you guys who don't know what the consequences of breaking Title IX with regards to clubs and teams and sports, teams and stuff, is that if you don't have equivalent in gender, then they have to cancel the whole thing, right?
Well, what happened with Title IX, they basically came up with a quota system, and there were two other factors that a university could conceivably use to get around the quota system. But they're both kind of unfeasible. So they're there on paper, but the quota system is what actually does it's the thing that they end up trying to live up to. And what they end up doing is the university has to have an equal number of male athletes and female athletes. Mm-hmm. And they can do that by having volleyball teams for women but no volleyball teams for men. And that gives them the ability to have a men's wrestling team and stuff like that. But if they end up with a lot more male interest in sports than female interest, then they end up having to cut teams or limit participation on teams. So there can only be so many spaces on the football team. There can only be so many spaces on the men's basketball team, but anybody can be on the women's basketball team, and so on. And the result has actually been a lot of universities having to get rid of some of their Olympic sports, because a lot of those are greater male interest than female. So they get rid of their men's gymnastics team, they get rid of their wrestling team, they get rid of their men's swim team, and they keep their football team because their football team makes money. They keep their basketball team because their basketball team makes money. Mm-hmm. And what that basically has for the future of the United States is we end up with a loss of participation in Olympic sports to the degree that we are limiting our potential for producing Olympic athletes. So among the problems with that, besides the United States not being able to participate as competitively in the Olympics, we also have the issue of if there is a benefit from participation in sports at university, what we are basically doing is saying women's only limitation to have access to that benefit is their choice. Men's limitation is based on women's choice.
Same as it ever was. Ba-doom-doom-doom. Ba-doom-doom-doom. All right. Prim or Candace, if you have any thoughts on this article, feel free to speak up. Otherwise, I will move on to the next one.
I think I've said my piece about
Okay.
the relevant stuff, but
You've
I mean,
raged.
I don't really know much about Title IX stuff, I'll be honest, but the other stuff is ridiculous.
Yeah. I guess I don't think you guys have Title IX in Canada, but
And I can give a kind of
Yeah,
basic
we
rundown of
don't.
what happened if you want.
If you'd like
It's-
to,
I
I
honestly have
wouldn't
no
mind
idea
to
about it.
hear about it, but
All right.
I
Well,
don't want to drag it out too long or anything, but if we have the time, I would like
yeah,
to.
go ahead.
what's basically happened with Title IX is during the early part of the 20th century, it was normal for women to be stay-at-home, moms, or they would work in like the lower income. Women who had to worked in things like textile mills and stuff like that, or they were housekeepers, or they were, they did laundry and stuff like that. Women who had enough money to attend university didn't have to work. And so the problem they came across was women wanting these medical degrees and law degrees and areas where you need people who get those degrees to go into the job after they get out of university in order for those areas of service to be available to the public, so that there would be doctors and there would be lawyers and there would be all these various professions that the public needs people to actually perform. So they limited the number of women. A lot of the universities limited the number of women that could take these courses of study at a time, so that they would have more men going into them and then coming out and actually working in the field. And I mean, that problem still exists to a degree today. There are more women going into the medical field who come out to be part-time doctors, or who come out to be part-time nurse practitioners. And there's still more men that go into the field who come out to be full-time, and they come out to be specialists, and they work 100-hour weeks and so on. So that balance is still a problem. But because now we do have women professionals.
Hello? Damn it. Shit, hold on. Fuck. What happened? Why won't it refresh? How can I do that? Is there a refresh page? What do you mean? I gotta go back in here. God damn it. Alright, where's the link? It's in the Discord. Go to messages.
Out.
I'm
Did I
still
scare you guys
here.
all the way?
I'm back.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just kind of a strange thing happened. Everybody in the chat was complaining that the stream had failed, so I wasn't sure what was happening there.
No, my computer froze for some fucking reason.
Oh, okay.
Oh no.
I'm okay though. I'm okay.
Okay.
But thank you,
So,
Hannah, for
yeah,
explaining
so
that.
that's where we are. What they look at is it's easier to prove that their sports programs are proportional to their respective enrollments than it is to keep coming up with new programs for girls or to prove that they are fully accommodating the interests and abilities of girls when there is a group, feminism, whose entire goal is to control activities on university campuses by complaining that girls are not being accommodated. And that's kind of where we are right now. And that's with the Dear Colleague letter becoming policy, and with the Campus Save Act turning parts of it into law, universities end up in a very shitty situation here, where they're kind of between a rock and a hard place. The law basically now says they have to serve feminists. Mm-hmm. And in cases like this, other laws say they have to serve the disability. And the law also says they can't discriminate. And they cannot do all three of those things. They can't satisfy all three of those factors.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna move on to the next story before my computer crashes again. I don't know why it did. Actually, it didn't like completely shut off or anything like that. It just froze and then it unfroze after a little while. So I don't know. It was annoying because there was a buzzing sound in my ear, the likes of which it was basically Hannah's voice, but just going. So I knew it crashed there. You guys are still there, right?
That was just my autistic screeching. It's my version of.
Okay, so yeah, apparently the stream didn't die; it just went silent. But no, you guys are glad you didn't hear what I heard. It was brutal, and this started happening recently. I got to figure out what the fuck is wrong with this. I don't know if it's the computer or the software or Google or what. So I'll figure it out. But anyway, next article. HeatStreet.com, thank you. California high school covers mirrors with messages of affirmation in girls' bathroom. In a move to promote positivity and self-acceptance, a high school in Southern California has replaced all the mirrors in the girls' bathrooms with notes of affirmation. Posters carried handwritten messages like, "You are beautiful," "Keep your head up," and "Think positive, be positive," which were written by students. The move was spurred on by 17-year-old Sabrina Astle, who figured that girls on campus could use a pick-me-up while in the bathrooms instead of looking at themselves in mirrors. because who needs that? Speaking to Fox 5, Laguna Hills High School Activities Director Chelsea Maxwell said that Astle came up with the idea during the school's What If Week, which carries a different message each day and proposes activities for the campus community. On March 23rd, the message of the day was, "What if we showed more love?" Astle told ABC News that she wanted to make a difference through the school's kindness club with the project. The school has a kindness club, apparently. "This is why I started making the posters in the first place," she said. "I felt that this would be a good time to hang the signs. I put the signs in the bathroom the night before so students would see them throughout the next day. The signs have helped people remember that everyone is beautiful, everyone is important, everyone is good enough, and everyone should be treated equally," said Astle. "I did this because I am passionate about the fact that everyone is important and everyone needs to be cared for." Did she mention that everyone part? She says that it was well received by other students who were delighted by her efforts. "Our hope is that the signs remind our girls to focus on everything that they are, smart, loved, important, and so much more," Maxwell said. Thank you, Ian Miles Chong, for this article.
Mom, my life is over because I walked around all day with pizza sauce on my face after lunch because there were no mirrors in the girls' bathroom and everyone was laughing at me and nobody told me and I don't want to go to school ever again. No, I can just see this stupid.
No
Did
kidding.
they do this to the boys' bathroom too, or did they just do this to the girls' bathroom?
Just the girls' bathroom. The boys all had nice hair and food on their face was cleaned off because they had mirrors, which are useful.
Yeah, apparently when they refer to everyone like always, they just mean women.
Oh God, they're stupid and this hurts. It's so appropriate that the person who did it has a name that sounds like asshole.
Astle.
I mean, does she realize what she's saying is you hate what you see in the mirror? You know, you're actually ugly, but we're going to tell you that you're beautiful. You know, when they take the mirror out, like we just automatically assume that what you see is going to be unattractive, so we're going to tell you you're attractive instead. Like that's sad.
Well, not to mention how patronizing it is. Like, piss off. When I go to the bathroom, sometimes I just want to use the mirror, you know, just to get something out of my teeth or anything. It doesn't even have to be about makeup. Mirrors have, you know, they have use. Don't get rid of useful things just because your feelings.
I just don't turn the girls' room into Tumblr, please. don't add neurosis that are already not already there, that are not necessary to teenage girls. They're neurotic enough. You should be telling them the other thing. Don't worry about what you see in the mirror. Look, it's just a mirror. There's not stuff on your face. Go to class. You know, don't worry about it. But taking the mirror down as a way of getting this lesson across and putting affirmative messages up, no. That degree of neurotic vanity is stupid. Call it stupid.
But you see, Hannah, mirrors, they is a symbol of the patriarchy because they encourage vanity in women, which is a female gender role, and they also tell them that they have to look at it and feel bad about themselves and see all the negative, like self-image stuff that comes out of it. That's a patriarchal construct. Plus,
you know what it really is? Now that Gen Xers are in charge of schools and stuff, they realize, because we grew up as we were teenagers once, we know that guys have self-control and girls are insanely curious and do stupid shit. All of the horror movies tell us this, right? So we know that if anybody is going to summon the Candyman, it's going to be some stupid girl. You got to take the mirrors out of their bathrooms.
Yeah, exactly. Also, if there's no mirror, then there's no way for you to miss the dude that snuck up behind you at the last minute. If you also know that from horror movie tropes.
Yes,
where a woman is like doing her hair in the mirror and then she turns away and then she turns back and there's a guy there. So, it's always a man. Because the mirrors contain the patriarchy within them. Hence Candyman. Alright, so, Prim, Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, see, when they write scary messages on the mirrors, well, this isn't going to work because their scary message is just going to get lost in all of the other shitty post-it notes that are on the wall.
It's also not going to work because I think that most girls these days use their phones or tablets to as mirrors. So
Yeah.
it's not really going to change anything, right?
Yeah, it's not like most of the girls at the school have a mirror in their purse.
Yeah, exactly. I would say that on the one hand, when I read this, I was like, this doesn't bother me that much because I guess it's, if you're 17 and maybe you're dealing with, or younger, because this is a high school, even though it's a campus, which I find to be strange. I guess that you're going to be struggling with a lot of like image problems, and maybe it's good. Also, the people who tend to shame girls the most on their appearance are other girls, so maybe that's one of the reasons why all of these signs are in the girls' bathroom, so that other girls see the message. Boys, on the other hand, usually don't get much of an opinion on that, or they don't usually go after women in the same way that other women do. So there could be some other facet to it. So I suppose, provided that they're not bashing boys while putting all these signs up, that's not entirely a bad thing, although the coddling I do have a problem with, because when these girls get into the real world, nobody's going to be telling them that they deserve the best, they are loved, they are strong, they are capable, they are all these things, without, anything real, substantial behind it. So I guess it's a bit of a mixed bag.
And they're just afraid that, when they look in the mirror and they ask it questions and it says some other girl is the prettiest girl in school, that they're going to find some hunter and send him off to the woods with her and tell him to bring back her heart.
Yeah. What are you going to do if you're like a girl, right, and you have a big fucking booger hanging out, but you don't know, and you don't have a mirror? What are you going to do? Are you just going to be in class with the bat in the cave?
Yeah.
I mean...
Yep, pretty much. I don't want to go back to school ever again. They all saw it.
One thing that I read about, and I wish that I still had this, but it was a long time ago. I heard that some degree of insecurity is actually healthy because it can kind of bring people. How do I phrase this? It can kind of help to socialize people, bring them all into kind of a certain bell curve of appearance and relation with other people, so it can actually be healthy to a certain extent. I mean, obviously not hardcore bullying or anything, but a little bit is a good thing, and it's totally normal.
Well, I mean, you have to have... Your self-image is worthless if it's not based on having standards.
Mm-hmm.
Other people's image of you isn't going to be as good as you. You know what happens when your self-image is not based on having standards? You become an arrogant, boorish asshole. And a girl who is an arrogant, boorish asshole doesn't have any more friends than a guy who becomes an arrogant, boorish asshole. She has hangers-on and pretenders who make fun of her or use her or are afraid of her, but she doesn't have any friends.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I guess one of the things that really bugs me about this, and I mean, I know educators try to be a good influence, be a positive influence on the students and everything, but do you remember when school was about reading and math and science and stuff?
Yeah.
Because I remember when that's what the whole goal of school was, and like all this other stuff was on the side, and it wasn't like somebody does something like this, it didn't make the news. It made the news when the math club won a state championship competition, or when some kid got in the top 5% of the United States and math scores for college entrance exams while they were in the 8th grade because they had a great teacher and they were smart, or something like that.
But Hannah, this is about creating a home here.
It's not about it's not an intellectual space.
Like, I remember when if a teacher wanted to do something like this, instead of removing all the mirrors, they might add up how much money makeup was costing the girls every week or every month and compare it to the cost of going to an amusement park for the summer. Mm-hmm. Instead of, oh, you're so pretty, you're perfect, you're affirmation. You should never feel bad.
Speaking of
it blows my mind that we've hit this point.
Yeah. Speaking of the booger problem that I mentioned before, I know a prominent feminist that has a solution to that problem. Lori Penny, she's actually never going to have a problem with a booger hanging out of her nose, ever. So, there's that. Take that for what you will. Moving on to the next story. Now that I've dropped that bomb. Okay, so let's get gross. We got to get angry again. Huffington Post posted this article. Is baby foreskin the key to youthful skin? There's a reason anti-aging products and services is a multi-billion-dollar industry. Many women and men are willing to try just about anything in order to achieve a more youthful appearance, even if it involves unconventional methods. The latest? Hydrofacial, a facial treatment that uses baby foreskin to fight acne, treat hyperpigmentation, and reduce wrinkles. It sounds out there, but the Cuts Associate Beauty Editor Ashley Weatherford decided to give it a try. I didn't really know exactly what I was walking into. I had this sort of vision of maybe like chunks of skin floating around in a solution, which is totally gross. But it was really nothing like that, she told Huffington Post live host Carolyn Madrasi Tehrani. God damn it, that name. The use of an infant's foreskin isn't new to the skincare industry, as Oprah Winfrey previously faced criticism for endorsing a face cream derived from human foreskin. I like how they say human foreskin, like it's not coming from men specifically. It's just, just from people. Researchers have found that it promotes skin cell regeneration when applied topically, and as Weatherford learned, the growth factors obtained from the foreskin for the hydrofacial is at a microscopic level. So no huge chunks. It's really broken down and ground to like the microscopic level. Watch the video clip above to find out exactly what happens during a hydrofacial treatment and how long results typically last. Would you try baby foreskin facial treatment? Tell us your thoughts in the comments section, she said with glee. I'm not going to play that video. So
I can't believe how cavalier they are about that at the end. That's ridiculous.
I know.
So
I'm not laughing because this is funny. This is just like my coping mechanism, so.
We should make sure and link to that article in the low bar so that people can go and tell their thoughts in the that's an open invitation. Tell your thoughts in the comment section.
Yeah. I'll put the link to this in the low bar.
Don't be afraid to be blunt and don't be afraid to post links. There's YouTube videos of babies being circumcised. I think you should have to watch one of those videos to purchase a product with baby foreskin derivatives in it. I think that should be a prerequisite. And not just the first time. Every time you go and buy the product, you should have to watch that video before you can hand over your money for that product. And if you're callous enough to do that over and over and over again, then there's no helping you.
Yeah.
That's it. And as far as I'm concerned, don't be afraid to use words like dick face and cannibal in the comments, because those are accurate descriptions of somebody that puts infant skin on their face to absorb the infant skin into their face to look young.
Yeah, it's kind of like the evil queen from that crappy new Snow White revision.
Like, everybody hated Cruella de Vil for having a coat made out of puppy fur, but it's okay for somebody to write a story about using infants' pilfered skin that was ripped off. And when I say ripped off, I don't just mean stolen.
Yeah.
They actually have to slide an instrument in between the skin and the corona of the penis to take that off, because it's attached. It's not loose like it is when you're older.
Well,
this is one of the reasons it's so necessary for people to watch the red pill.
Absolutely. Guess what, though? There's no comment section for this article.
Are you kidding me?
Are you kidding me? There's no comment section. Oh, tell us what you think in the comment section. No comment section.
I don't see a way to go to the comment section. Let me put it that way. I see suggested correction, and then I see
okay, well, use that.
Tags.
Use that.
Yeah, suggested correction is what I see.
Yeah, actually, everybody that would like to comment on this and can't because there's no comment section, use the suggested corrections link.
I'm betting that they probably just took them down because they got a slew of negative feedback for it.
I'm hoping. I'm hoping. Yeah, they may have taken it down. In fact, I don't know if the article may have been removed, because I see here, I may have gotten it before because I had this in my tabs for a while. But I see here that I can't access this server's DNS, so I don't know what that means. But the article itself may not even be here. But I will still put the link to see if you guys can get to it. So, anyway, pretty messed up. And,
But this is HuffPo, right?
This is Huffington Post, yes. Their beauty section
of the HuffPo.
Yeah.
They need to be contacted. Everybody contact the Huffington Post and tell them what you think of this article.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, don't be afraid to send links, to circumcision videos, because if they're gonna do this shit, they need to see it happen. They need to see what they're advocating be done for somebody's vanity.
I found the comments thanks to the guy in the chat, Jimmy Farrow. He told me that to access the comment section, there's a little gray balloon at the upper right corner. It's a weird place to put them, but I found them. So there are comments, so the article is here.
Oh, excellent.
And then it looks like they're negative. John McMahon says, "I'm not going to mutilate my son no matter the benefit to your stupid face." JC Ford says, "How about you stop butchering babies?" Sin Vasquez says, "Doesn't matter if it is. Removing healthy, functional body parts from someone by force is medically unethical and a violation of human rights. Having youthful skin is not worth the barbarity being committed against people who cannot defend themselves. Shame on us for allowing this heinous practice to continue."
How about there is nothing beautiful about child abuse?
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad to hear that most people have some common sense in these comments. That's great.
Yeah, somebody says, "I wonder what benefit men can get from an excised labia."
Ooh, there you go.
Yeah, right.
Another one.
Well, and I mean,
Reversing the
women have
sexism.
foreskin too. That's
do.
part of female circumcision. There are certain methods of female circumcision that only involve removing the foreskin around the clitoris, which can make sex very painful. So, this could be just as easily done to girls. It's just not, because when you do it to girls, we recognize that it's a barbaric practice.
Mm-hmm.
We should be recognizing that it's a barbaric practice to do it to boys too.
No, it seems to me no one supports this. I haven't seen one positive comment.
Jax L has it right. It's not HuffPo. It's HuffPoo. They're full of shit.
Huffington poop.
Yeah.
Yeah. No one's thrilled with this. So that's good.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
That's good.
I was like wondering if there was somebody.
They need just full on negative feedback from this. They need to get flamed over it, because to actually candidly advocate this like that is just absolutely sick.
Yeah, it's disgusting. All right, let's move on to the next article. All right, so this is a little bit, involved, but I will tell you what I know about it. All right, so it turns out that Brianna Wu is under some investigation. This was brought up at the tail end of the Pussycat Cast, but I now have an official document here. We all know that Brianna Wu is running for Congress. So, she has a letter from the Federal Election Commission in Washington, D.C. to Frank Wu, that's her husband, I believe, the treasurer, and Brianna Wu for Congress. And this was publicly released, it was on Twitter, so this isn't like some shit I shouldn't be reading, but Dear Treasurer, this is to Frank Wu, her husband. This letter is prompted by the Commission's preliminary review of the filing referenced above. This notice requests information essential to a full public discourse or disclosure of your federal election campaign finances. An adequate response must be received at the Commission by the response date noted above. Additional information is needed for the following item. Response date, by the way, is the 17th of this month. It appears that your committee failed to timely file the Statement of Organization, which is a Form 1, FEC. Please be advised that 52 U.S.C. number 30103, formerly 433, requires committees to register with the commission within 10 days of becoming a political committee. Furthermore, and there's like another sort of like, segment of the document, states, it's like CFR 102.1, states that each authorized committee must file a statement of organization no later than 10 days after its designation by the candidate on the statement of candidacy, which is Form 2, pursuant to 11-102.1. Please provide clarification regarding the timelines of the filing of your FEC Form 1. Please note, you will not receive an additional notice from the Commission on this matter. Adequate responses must be received by the Commission on or before the due date noted above to be taken into consideration in determining whether audit action will be initiated. Requests for extensions of time in which to respond will not be considered. Failure to provide an adequate response by this date may result in an audit of the committee. Failure to comply with the provisions of the Act may also result in an enforcement action against the committee, and any response submitted by your committee will be placed on the public record and will be considered by the Commission prior to taking enforcement actions. Electronic filers must file amendments to include statements, designations, and reports in an electronic format and must submit an amended report in its entirety rather than just those portions of the report that are being amended. For additional information about the report review or process, for additional information about the report review process or specific filing information for your committee type, please visit, and it gives a website. If you should have any questions regarding this matter or wish to verify the adequacy of your response, please contact me on your toll-free number or my local number. Chris Jones, Campaign Finance Analyst, Reports Analyst Division. So, looks like Brianna Wu's campaign funds, because we all know she's running for Congress, are in danger of becoming audited or coming under audit, which could mean legal action on her part because I guess some things are suspect and there's some forms that she didn't fill out.
My only comment, woo! No, they better watch out because she knows how to hit them with the force of nuclear bombs.
From
all
the
she
moon.
has to do is yes. All she has to do is just get a ride from Elon Musk.
Mm-hmm.
Head up to the moon.
Yeah, everybody would be in danger if she controls the moon gun that we have waiting there. So, I don't know, I just thought that was an interesting bit of happenings going on with the Literally Who's. So we'll see where it goes from there. Brianna Wu's hilarious train wreck. I'm just gonna throw that out there. I don't feel threatened by her at all. She's just funny. It's just she just always.
It'll be fun to see. Be interesting to see how this plays out. She's like more entertaining than a cat.
Yeah.
It takes a lot to be more entertaining than a cat because cats are funny.
I can't decide who's more fun to watch these days, her or Shia LaBeouf. It's definitely one of those people.
Oh, God. The Shia LaBeouf saga is pretty damn good.
I think that's what's happening. There's a competition.
Has he put up another? Sorry.
Somebody needs to write an epic ballad of the Shia LaBeouf saga.
Okay,
has he put up another flag yet, or is that all done now?
No, well, he will not divide us. Season 5 has not begun yet, although there was some recent footage of him flipping out in like a bowling alley.
So his enthusiasm is not flagging.
No, it's just yeah, right. So yeah, I don't know. It should be interesting what happens with Shia when we see him next. It just seems like whenever he pops up now, he's like some crazy hobo that just sort of flips out at people. So, but yeah, it happened in a bowling alley. He's all about that. He's a keck generator, but so is Brianna Wu. They're like machines of lulls. All right, moving on to the final story. Oh, Hannah, you want to say something?
You know, I was just telling my son today, this would be the only thing that could make this better. Is the Shia thing would be if it turned out to be a magnificent troll op when he was on exactly the opposite side that he actually is. Mm-hmm. It was just trying to unify Trump supporters against a solid enemy, but and came up with all this shit. The only thing that would make this better is if he was doing it on purpose.
Right. Okay. I should have saved that one for last for the lulls, but here we go. I got a little bit more of a depressing and rage-inducing story. Widower, staying with his own daughter, 13, is accused of being a pedophile by Travelodge staff and interviewed by police, all because he booked a double room. A widower who lost his wife to cancer was accused of being a pedophile by Travelodge staff because he booked a double room for him and his daughter. Craig Darwell, 46, was taking Millie, his daughter, 13, to visit Thorpe Park and was forced to book the double room in Chertsey, Surrey, because there was no others available. But when he checked in, suspicious staff demanded that he show them his daughter's ID. Mr. Darwell, who lost his wife to leukemia when Millie was 4, explained that he did not have ID for his daughter and instead showed off staff pictures of them together when she was a baby. But even after seeing them, staff called the police and he and his daughter were forced into separate rooms and interviewed by police officers. Mr. Darwell, who felt knotted inside after the accusation, said his daughter was distraught and refused to leave the room after the entire ordeal. My little girl was in her room crying her eyes out when we were supposed to be going out for tea for a special weekend, he told Mail Online. He added, I lost my wife nearly 10 years ago and I've done everything for her on my own ever since, and this has never happened before. But if her mom was still around and she had been there with her and not me, this would not have happened. Mr. Darwell, a self-employed car dealer from Leeds, booked the hotel and tickets to Thorpe Park as a Christmas present for his thrill-seeker daughter. He booked the hotel in January and was told that all that was available was a double room, so he booked it, but was not told he would need to prove that he was the father. He claims that he left his daughter in reception while he parked his car after checking in, then faced the awkward questions when he returned. Taken aback, he showed the manager his customized phone number, plastered with pictures of him and his daughter together. He also showed him a touching Facebook post written about his daughter on her birthday, which read, quote, "Can't believe I have a teenager. Happy 13th birthday to my daughter Amelia Rose Darwell, Millie. Been a struggle over the years and still is, but I am proud to have seen you blossom into a wonderful little lady." Other staff looked uncomfortable and guests started watching as Mr. Darwell was told that the Inquisition was company policy, they claimed. He was then given his key and went upstairs, but was so shaken that he went back down to complain. If that really was company policy, then they should have told me and I could have brought her passport or something like that. I've been on my own for nearly 10 years and I've never had anything like that happen to me before. I said I wanted to see the guidelines, but he said it was internal and then smirked and said, and by the way, I've called the police. A WPC arrived and she worked out in about 2 seconds what had happened. She was very nice, but she said she had to question me because the complaint had been made. The worst part is that she then had to go upstairs and question Millie on whether or not I was her dad. She was absolutely distraught. There was another member of staff who said he hadn't been there for long. Even he said I had been treated disgustingly. The police officer said that he had obviously been on a training course and put 2 and 2 together and got 10. Mr. Darwell complained and says that the company are now falsely claiming that he tried to pay by cash in order to justify their suspicion. They say I insisted on paying cash when I arrived, but that's rubbish. I had already paid by credit card before I even got there, he added. Travelodge say that they are investigating the incident and have apologized to Mr. Darwell, who said the ordeal totally ruined the weekend. The same thing happened to author and broadcaster Will Self, who was stopped by police while out walking with his 11-year-old son. A security guard had called the police after seeing Self, who was 51 at the time, walking with the boy on a rambling holiday in Yorkshire. No Englishman enjoying a ramble with his son should face examination by police at the roadside on suspicion of being a sexual predator, he said at the time. Mr. Darwell from Leeds said that in nearly 10 years of taking his daughter to events and on outings alone since his wife died, this has never happened before. The staff member told him it was company policy to make such inquiries and made him go on Facebook to reveal messages between them, Mr. Darwell claims. A spokesman for Travelodge said, "We take our responsibilities toward protecting children and vulnerable young people extremely seriously. Our colleagues are trained based on current national guidelines from the NSPCC, the police and other agencies, and in the past, hotel team actions have led to successful intervention to protect young people. Clearly, fine judgments have to be made, and we deeply regret any distress or inconvenience caused to Mr. Darwell on this occasion. We are undertaking a full investigation into the circumstances, and we will take careful note of any lessons learned in due course, including additional training where appropriate. In the meantime, we would like to apologize to Mr. Darwell for the situation he encountered, and we will be making further contact with him as our investigation continues. Surrey Police said, "We were called by a member of staff at the Travelodge on Guildford Street in Chesterty on Thursday, the 30th of March, just after 8 p.m. following a concern for safety. Officers attended and made no arrests. No further inquiries will take place. Hotels, taxi companies, and other licensed premises have recently been equipped with the right knowledge to identify children who could be at risk of exploitation under Operation Make Safe." Ray Berry, leader of Equal Parenting Alliance, said, "If it is company policy, it is outrageous that someone should question a father and suggest that he is up to no good when taking out his daughter. These attitudes are at least 100 years out of date and must be challenged. We cannot just accept it or we will never change. Although often it is simply the prejudices of one person who uses guidelines to justify their own outdated attitudes. There is this presumption that a man with a female child might be up to no good, and it doesn't work the other way. These attitudes are out of date, and increasingly fathers are becoming more involved parents." And that's the end of the article.
And if it was just about protecting children, there would be as many news stories like this about women being accosted while out with their sons or daughters. But there aren't. And while you were reading that one, I called back up on my screen one that I found this morning. Dad claims waiter told him it was inappropriate to hug his son in a restaurant because it made other diners uncomfortable. That's also in The Sun. And he was approached in the restaurant. He was there with his son and reprimanded by staff for hugging the youngster. And this is a kid. The kid is almost as tall as his dad, it looks like, unless they're sitting down in the picture. And it's pretty clear that it was just a hug that was, he said, "We were messing around, having a cuddle. I had my arm around him. We were talking about his schoolwork and other things on his mind. A waiter came over and said it was inappropriate and could make other diners uncomfortable. My first thought was this was some kind of practical joke or wind-up, but he was deadly serious. It's outrageous that people would feel uncomfortable around a parent's open display of affection with their child. I left quite abruptly. I was so angry." I would be too. And here we have all these stories. And if I remember right, when I read the story originally about the first guy we were talking about, the one who's the hotel called the police on, there was a link to another story about a guy being labeled a pedo because the cops had the wrong address. And instead of it being cleared up as soon as the paperwork was cleared up, he was hassled for something like 10 years. So this is something that it happens almost exclusively to men.
Mm-hmm.
And because it happens almost exclusively to men, it isn't about protecting children. It's about projecting one's own hatred for men onto the issue of child trafficking. And you notice they only ever worry, when almost exclusively the worry is for female children. This one story that I found, and this one actually has a quote from Fathers for Justice. "I've long been aware that showing any affection to your children in public can lead you to or land you in hot water if you are a dad." And that's the thing. It's concern mostly female children and concern mostly about male parents that's causing this. And I think the story can be kind of summed up. The initial story can be kind of summed up by what Spock's smarter brother on Twitter tweeted at me in response to my tweeting of this story earlier last night. "All our staff are trained, but since they are all imbeciles, the training only makes them dangerous." You can't protect children by separating them from caring, affectionate, loving parents. It's not how it works.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. If I were that dad in that restaurant, like you said, I would have just said, well, I mean, the other patrons are free to stop paying attention to what I'm doing with my son, like a bunch of weirdos, and go return to their meals. But this sort of thing particularly bothers me because I'm one of those weird cases where my dad got full custody of me when he and my mom divorced. So I was with him a lot when I was younger. And if something like this happened, that would have been totally awful. And for all I know, like how many people might have had that thought in their minds but didn't say anything. Like it's just terrible that people say things like this and will go to these extents to disrupt fathers and children's lives just because they have this weird bias against it.
Yeah. Yeah. I hope he seeks legal action for that or something, because that's really fucked
Yeah,
up.
he sure should.
And also, for the record, Travelodge, worst service I ever had at a hotel. In the UK, when I went to the ICMI last year, Travelodge is like kind of crap. So that's just my opinion.
That's where we stayed.
That's where we
right.
stayed. It's like the Motel
I knew
6
that was
of
familiar. I'm
hotels.
like, why is the name of that familiar? There's not one of those anywhere around here.
Because this takes place in the
okay.
UK, so
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know if you guys any of you guys that are watching are from the UK, and I know it's fucking late where you are. Yeah, Travelodge kind of shit. So if you go there, try to get a good hotel. Unfortunately, everything in the London area is expensive as fuck, so it might be pretty difficult.
Yeah, they might be the cheap version,
Motel
what
6.
is it? Motel 6
Yeah.
that advertises a clean room and a good night's sleep, and that's it.
No, I
And that's
remember,
all you have to pay for.
I swear to God, I remember their selling point for the Travelodge was something like, we have pillows. I mean, it was something like that.
Is there a
I
hotel
can't
that
remember
doesn't
what
have
it
pillows?
was. No, it was really funny. Or king size beds now, or something. I remember it was something that hotels just normally just have.
Well, hotels in the U.S. normally have.
Yeah, hotels in the U.S. Right.
In '94, I was sent to Japan as part of the Sister Cities program for my hometown, and I spent a week in Tokyo and I spent a week in a small village. And one of the things that I learned was that hotels in Japan are very, very different from hotels in the U.S. Like a room that you would get in a cheap hotel, a single room in a cheap hotel in the U.S. is the same size as luxury rooms in like the mid-range hotels in Japan, because there's so much less space there, and there are even hotels there where you can, I don't think that's what they're called. I don't think they're actually called hotels, but you can get a bed that is like a morgue drawer, and that's your room. You just go sleep there for a few hours on your way from one job to another, or between home and work. I don't think there's anything like that in the U.S. So, I mean, it kind of depends on where you are. I think things are a little different in some cities than they are out in the country as well. Here in the U.S., there's a little more. You can get a little more spacious without the dollar being attached to it, and if you want that, when you get into an urban area, you pay through the nose for it. So I suspect that same thing might be true in the UK, simply because they may not have the space for it.
Yep. Well, I have I don't know what else to add except this is fucked up but not surprising. There is
a good thing about this, though.
Yeah.
Because, when I was in high school, I've talked about this before. I worked for my local newspaper. I was a sports photographer, and I worked with my dad sometimes, and I worked on my own sometimes. And I had an incident where this woman approached me and warned me to be careful around all those scummy-looking men out there on the field, on the football field with me, that were also carrying cameras. And you don't wear your Sunday best to go photograph a football game, because you're going to get dirty, especially if the weather isn't bright and sunny and everything, and if it's a Friday night football game in Ohio in September or October, if you get into playoff season, I think it goes into November if I remember right. it's not going to be pretty. So you wear scummy clothes. You don't dress nice. And you get stains on your clothes. Your clothes might be raggedy. You're not going to look like, a high school principal. But she just looked at that group of men and assumed that they were scoundrels, and I was in danger and everything, even though I was dressed the same. One of them was my dad, and she's pointing at him because he was a big guy with a beard, and a big guy with a beard is obviously dangerous, right? And so I just looked at her and I'm like, that's my dad. Oh, well, I'm sorry, and that was it. There was no, she obviously didn't change her mind about him by hearing I'm here with my dad. Like, take your daughter to work day is supposed to be a big special thing, but take your daughter to work all the time, that's creepy, right? And that was in the late 80s and early 90s. And so it's not new, but it was an accepted attitude back then.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when it happens, it's outrageous and it makes news. Maybe not every time, but the fact that people are recognizing that it's outrageous, that's a huge step forward. So even though the story itself is outrage fuel,
Yeah.
at the same time, this is great news. It's not great news that it happened, but it's great news that any news outlet looked at this as outrage fuel. That's awesome.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Especially is this Daily Mail? It looks like
Daily Mail. Daily Mail.
Oh my goodness.
UK. Yeah.
Yeah,
and the one about the waiter telling the dad not to hug his kid was in the Sun.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they're not, maybe they're tabloidish, maybe they're not, maybe they're reliable, maybe they're not, but they're news outlets that are widely read that saw fit to put this type of story in for outrage clickbait. And that means they expect the public to be outraged by what they have brought to light.
Mm-hmm.
So that means there is a change of attitude. People are waking up to the fact that it's dumb to assume that a guy is a child molester because he's out with his kid.
That's true. Little victories. And I think that the foreskin makeup thing is also a good sign that people were really upset about it. So maybe we're making impact. I think we are.
I think we are too.
Jordan
feels that
Peterson.
way sometimes.
Jordan Peterson said, "Everyone in your lifetime, you meet 1,000 people, and then those people know 1,000 people, which means that you're about one magnitude, or one sort of order of magnitude away from 1 million people, and then that's like one away from 1 billion. So information spreads quickly, provided that we exercise our speech. So it could be having an impact. I'm just throwing it out there. I do declare. So we're going to go ahead and close out the show. Again, I want to remind you guys that when this ends, it's going to be unlisted. And then after that, we're going to be on... it's going to be uploaded to minds.com. So that's where... Well, not uploaded, but the link will be sent to minds.com. So I'm unlisting the show now, so you know. And... if you want to join us on the after show, we're going to be talking about breaking news. Now, I had something else planned, but I think we're going to need to talk about this. Apparently, missiles were launched at Syria as a response to the chemical warfare that happened the other day. So we're going to look at the story and see what we know and probably discuss this with the patrons and those of you guys who are going to join us in the after show. So I'm going into this one completely raw and without knowing what the fuck is going on, but I'm terribly interested, so I really got to look at it. So we're going to look at Syria. Did you have something to say, Prim? I see that you're there, or your face is on the screen. No? Okay, maybe not.
No, I didn't change my
it's
icon.
weird.
I guess it just popped up.
I heard a noise and then I saw your face on there, so I thought you were going to say something. All right, we're going to go for that.
It seems to be doing that.
Yeah.
It's just doing that. Like, we're both muted, and I've seen her face pop up and my face pop up for no reason.
Oh, that's weird. All right, well, anyway.
Google is gynocentric.
Yeah, that's why we got to get over to Discord. All right, so guys, I want to thank you again for joining us on the Pussycat Cast number 6, and I want to thank our special guests Monique and Candace for coming on and talking a little bit about the red pill, and of course Prim and Hannah for joining me on the show. Otherwise, it would just be me, and that would be boring and awkward, and you just don't want that. So, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and head over to the after show, and I'll talk to you guys on the next Pussycat Cast.